Hey, everybody, welcome back. My name is Deborah Peters. Welcome to the Deborah Peters Show. I've got a whopper of a show for you today. I'm sure you saw the thumbnail and the banner and social media. We're going to go through a lot of what's going on with school boards on the East Coast, in particular, Fulton County, Virginia. But we're going to talk about how that influences the rest of the nation and what impact that makes on your child's education and you as a parent. But before we get there, I just want to introduce you to the big picture of this show, which is really, it's just all about self-awareness and self-mastery. And a lot of the times I call it consciousness, and some people just don't really understand what that means. But, consciousness, AKA self-mastery, where you really understand what you're creating your life to be with your thoughts and your emotions and the patterns of both that you run on a consistent basis. We get what we focus on. I remember way back in the day, they've changed the name of it now, but there was this great little book called As a Man Thinketh. And so this is really powerful stuff that we're going to get into today. And we're going to talk about some corruption, some control dramas, and just the big picture agenda for what's happening within our country right now. I mean, it's just like, obviously you all know it's bizarre what's going on across the world and what we're steeped in. But I really today, I want to bring it home. And I think the smallest change for the biggest result. And so when you're talking about self-mastery and really getting to this place where you understand it and know yourself, and you can make higher level decisions more quickly because you understand the impact that you have on your reality with your thoughts and with your emotions. So today I've got an amazing guest back again, and I just can't say enough about Anthony. He's brilliant. And I'm so glad that we connected. I'm kind of feeling like, we're cousins or brother and sister or something at this point. So I'm going to pick his brain and have him tell you what he's seeing, boots on the ground. Love your comments. Make sure you subscribe, share this with your pals. Today's the live show on Tuesday. So I noticed in my email when I send it out to about 30,000 people that a lot of people are already clicking on the links to Rumble and whatnot. It doesn't appear yet on Rumble or iTunes or Amazon Music or Spotify. It takes a day or two for the live video to render. So if you want to catch it live, you got to be here live on Tuesdays at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. And you can catch it on my Facebook, my YouTube, and my LinkedIn. And I know today that we're broadcasting to Anthony's connections too. So Anthony, a little bit about you: CIA, secret agent, U.S. Marine, foster dad. What else you got going on?
It's a whole host of things. We talked a lot about different things that's happening in society. I think one of the stuff we talked about was the actual school shootings in Uvalde.
Yeah, I
And
remember that
mental
show.
health. I think one of the shows we had was a great show on mental health.
Yeah.
And you sit back and start talking about these issues and really working. I think you gave me a little assignment of 12 things we could do for our kids with mental health. And one of it was getting involved in your local elections.
Yeah.
And so lo and behold, no more than a year later, here I am running for local office in Fairfax County Public Schools in the Providence District.
God
And
bless you.
what I thought was that I knew of all the different type of issues that are happening just based upon what I'm seeing in the media. The reality is, as I peel that onion back, it's even worse.
Sure.
And this
I'm
isn't
sure.
something that is isolated to just Fairfax County. And
Yeah.
Fairfax County being right next to the nation's capital, I would say this: most of your bureaucracy, most of the well-to-do in DC live here in Fairfax County area.
That's
So
fascinating.
we're seeing, eh, I'm seeing a dynamic here of that I never thought of. A complete bureaucracy, a complete machine that's happening right here. And seeing outside sources coming in, outside money. Virginia's one of the states that allows outside money to come right in for elections. There's no
Wow.
limit on it. So seeing with my opponent, the incumbent, how much outside dollars are coming in from the West Coast. Uh,
Interesting.
well, right now I can tell you this: the incumbent has close to $400,000 for a school board race.
Wow.
And so those are numbers that are sitting really high for school board race, considering that it should only take you about $30,000 to $40,000 to actually run to get all the material.
Sure.
He's 10 times more than that.
It's
So
almost half a million.
so as I start peeling away at everything and talking with parents and really look from at the school board, which my adopted son went to, into this county. He went to school in Fairfax County Public Schools, but really digging in and paying attention to what's happening, I started seeing a lot of, uh, I hate to say, mismanagement, corruption.
Yeah.
And one of the things is, and this is running rampant as I started researching this, I saw that our superintendent makes $380,000 a year.
I know. I made that note. I'm like, 380 grand. Like, that's just flat salary. What else are they getting?
Oh, there's added benefits to that.
Yeah,
A lot of,
always.
yeah, so you get driving stipends, cell phone stipends, things like that. But you put that in reality of things, $20,000 less than the President of the United States, more than a sitting,
Say that again.
yeah,
$20,000. Say that again.
$20,000 less than the President of the United States.
And that's a school board administrator,
That's a superintendent for a
superintendent.
school district.
Unbelievable. I'm in
Yeah,
the wrong business.
we apparently all are in the wrong business. You also have congressmen and senators. They're sitting at when he first come on board, 174,000, and our superintendent makes it 380,000. So more than a sitting U.S. congressman and senator. 20 of the top positions within the administration, Fairfax County administration, is above a sitting senator and congressman. I think the lowest one is out of the top 20 was 183,000.
So who sets the tone for that? Who determines that scale?
So every single time that I push this out, especially on Twitter, I get a lot of people that are pro the school board, and they say, well, that's the market rate. And the
Okay.
market rate's dependent upon money just being filtered out without any criteria. Let me give you an example. We start talking about market rate. The amount of schools we have here in Fairfax County is 212 schools in Fairfax County.
Okay.
It covers about 188,000 students. All right. She got selected last year in June, coming from a school district only having 37 schools, about 56,000 students. So you're looking at not even a third of the amount of schools that you'd be covering. It's 6 times the size
Yeah.
of where she
Yeah, I
came from.
got it. Yeah.
And so when we start looking at this criteria, so what is the criteria? When someone tells me, well, usually, you step up into larger districts, this is a huge district, and this is a very well-to-do district. We had
Of course.
we have a school called Thomas Jefferson High School. It's a technical school here. That school used to be ranked #1 in the nation. I think right now it's down to either between #3 and #5 because they
Wow.
decided to change the criteria to get into this school. Before it was based off a merit system, and now they switch it to a more of an equity system where you're looking at we have to have a certain amount of different nationalities there.
Yeah.
And people
Like
don't
the
understand.
universities do.
Yeah, so what people don't understand this is the one that was targeted the most was Asian students.
Yeah.
So Asian students were getting bypassed to get into this Thomas Jefferson High School um, because of equity. And
Got
so
it.
we shifted out of a merit base to more of an equity base. But the equities is really geared towards their agenda. Because obviously, equity, when people think of equity, they think of minorities. I think
So
Asian
then,
community is a minority, but yet they're getting nothing.
so unpack uh, equity feeds into their agenda. I apologize. There's a train going by. Like
Oh, it's all right.
I still haven't figured out the train schedule, but yeah,
No
unpack
problem.
that.
So when they talk about equity in this current school board, they're talking about equity based upon their activism, not true equity. True equity, when you start looking at it, is supposed to be, people that need the resources, additional resources, are getting the resources. So let me give an example of the equity that's not in play. We have
Okay.
21% dropout rate for Hispanic students in
Wow.
Fairfax County. Where's
That's
equity
high.
there? It's extremely high. They decided to put money into an Hispanic resource center. They put it into, and if people hear the sound of my voice, understand Virginia, Northern Virginia, they put in Tyson's Corner. Tyson's Corner is a well-to-do area. They didn't put the place for Hispanic students and resources in the areas where Hispanic students are at. They put it in a well-to-do place where there's virtually almost no Hispanics there.
And probably no way to get there.
No way to get there. It's going to take you about 30 minutes from the closest area where most of the Hispanics live, about 30 minutes to 40 minutes, depending on traffic. So now you put the burden, yes, you have this wonderful resource, but you put the burden onto the parents to be able to try to get there to receive these resources.
Right.
And
Right.
that makes no common sense. Like for me, if you're going to build this resource, put it in the areas where they live, the demographics live.
That's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's smoke and mirrors. And the second to that, Fairfax County Public Schools has dropped about 80 points on their SAT overall. We had a school board meeting with parents. One of the parents stood up and defended this school board on why the SAT scores are low. And I have a video of this, and I put it on my Twitter account, or now it's called X. But she said the reason why SAT scores are low is because kids from low income families have free access to take the test.
Meaning,
Meaning, if these kids didn't take the test, the SAT scores won't go low.
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. She actually even said that historically, kids from well-to-do families typically score higher. So instead of going to the school board and saying, okay, why are kids from low-income family, which typically are minorities, scoring low on the test, she defended the test by saying it's because these kids are taking the test in low-income families. So what's your alternative? Not to have them take the test? So
Well,
instead of
yeah, I mean, there's never an opportunity for them to aspire to greater heights.
yes. And
It's
so,
like they become a product of their environment where you know how it is. You're a parent. Whatever you expect of your child is what you get.
yeah, yeah. And what the expectation for a lot of these students, especially the minority students, are very low. We have a lot of, because of the immigration, we have a huge population of immigrants here. And we're just not talking immigrants from Latino countries. We're talking immigrants from the Middle
Sure.
Eastern countries, from the Korean countries, or the Southeast Asian countries. So we have a lot of that. Very little is given to them as far as resources for English as second language. We're getting more resources coming from churches than from this actual school board.
Oh, that's interesting. I want to go back to something. So if your superintendent
Yes.
salary is 380,000 per year plus plus plus, what's a teacher make?
On average, 77,000.
Wow.
And it
And they're
goes,
in the trenches every single day.
it's even worse than that. The people, food service workers, 15,000 on average.
No, that's below the poverty line.
It is below the poverty line, 15,000.
What are they
School bus,
living on?
I, I don't know. School bus drivers, 38,000 on average.
And they're the people that we place our children's lives in their hands
Yes.
twice a day.
These are the ones that are feeding and driving our kids around. And our teachers, 77,000 on average.
And they're the ones influencing how our children think.
Yes. So we have a total imbalance. We have an 88% in the last 10 years, 88% increase in administrators at the administrative building. It's called Gatehouse, while we have a 7% increase during the same time span of teachers.
88% for administrators, 7% for teachers.
Increase in staff, yes.
Yeah. Where's the money coming from, Anthony?
It's coming from our tax dollars. We have a budget of $3.6 billion.
And where do you have any idea like where you see that in the taxation? Is it
It's
like,
off your property tax, mostly off your
I
property
see,
tax.
only just
52
property tax?
Well, property tax and numerous things, but the majority of it's going to come from property tax. 52.
So,
Go ahead.
so you're in an affluent area.
Oh, yes. Very
And
much
so
so.
are they carrying the weight of those taxes, or is that across the board regardless where people are at?
No, we're carrying the weight. I mean, the people of Fairfax guy doesn't want any more taxes, but yet it keeps creeping up every single time. They just asked for another $480 million to be added to the budget through a bond.
Okay, so then trying to wrap my head around the strategy of this. So if you're living in an affluent neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
the property taxes are going to the school, to these inflated administrator salaries.
Yes.
Is there pushback from these homeowners? Are they just taking it? You know, where's their
I would say this:
contribution?
there's a lot of pushback that's coming around because people want answers. The
Yeah.
school board has yet to do a full audit. They do spot audits on certain sections, but a full audit, they've never done a full audit to go through every
Ever?
dollar ever. And there's almost zero
Wow.
transparency. When you see some of these reports, a budget report, you have about 50 pages, and buried in there, you got to figure out where all the numbers are because it's buried. They only do an executive summary that
Sure.
spells out the first page, spells out everything, and then have the rest just be more of the data points and the granular portions of the actual audit or whatever report they're pushing out. They make it hard, so it's not very transparent. They move money around. They don't do any audit at all. They do spot audits. A lot of taxpayers are willing to give money to the schools because we are known to have one of the best school systems. Not
Okay.
anymore. We just dropped down to number 11 in the nation. We used to be up in the top 5. So we're seeing
Interesting.
a decline happening with our school district. But taxpayers, parents are willing to put the money and invest in the money. They just don't know where the money's really going. And when I
Yeah.
bring this up, how much money, how much increase in bureaucracy that we've increased with the last 10 years, a lot of parents and taxpayers are very surprised. So they're fine with the budget. They just would like that to go to the teachers. They think it's going to the teachers, but it's not.
It's not. When did this all start coming to the surface for you?
It's actually started probably 3 months ago when I started digging into the financials. I talked to a very, very knowledgeable parent that's been tracking this for about, I would say, past 8 years. She gave me binders to go through and showed me exactly what was happening, where the money's going, these new jobs and administrative jobs that they're creating. So they create jobs in Fairfax County Public School that are the same jobs that the county has, such as the equity officer, an equity
Okay.
office. So that Fairfax County Public Schools now has a diversity equity chief. Fairfax County has always had Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So you're developing the same thing just to create more jobs, but jobs that have no meaning to the actual day in and day out of teaching your kids.
Yeah.
So
It's
there's a
top heavy for sure.
oh, it's very top heavy, and we get a lot of people that want to defend this, but it's undefensible. There's no reason why we have such a big disparity. You know, I tell a lot of people that day one when I get on the school board, we will do a full audit, and a lot of people that support the school board will say, "What is audit going to do?" And I tell them, "Well, this is what audit's going to do. It's going to show where every dollar is going." And then
Yeah.
we're going to evaluate this is if are we getting return on investment? And investment
Yeah.
is a kid's education and a
That's right.
graduation rates. So if there's no
Mhm.
return on investments, then why are we putting money into these certain programs, especially in the administrative side,
Do
that
you think
has no
it's,
return?
yeah, do you think this kind of sounds sinister, but do you think there's some money laundering going on through these different processes?
I will say this: there's a very good possibility of things like that happening because why wouldn't you do a full audit? And so when I look at that kind of stuff, maybe there's something there that we need to look into because they refuse to do one. Every time I bring one up, you know, people that support Fairfax County Public School pushes out that we don't need a full audit. What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
What are you looking at? You know, that's what they do.
Well, the question is, why not? Like, what are you hiding?
Exactly. And I want full transparency. So when I look at it, let's have full transparency. Let's see where every dollar and cent is going to. Let's see what programs we have and how much money is going to these programs. And then we need to reprioritize certain things. And so when I talk about common sense, reprioritizing where we're putting the money, where we're putting our assets, they get very defensive.
Well, and when
And
you start creating repetitious roles,
mhm,
then it smells very fishy to me.
yeah, it very much is. And what I hear from a lot of teachers on the ground, front line, they tell me that they have to leave teaching in the classroom to go take administrative jobs just to be able to make more money.
Well, yeah, you can't survive. You can't survive on 77,000 a year, or house payment, kids, car payments, gas, food. Like, what is the poverty line these days? It's
Yeah.
certainly higher than it used to be.
No, definitely, definitely higher. And I will tell you this, right now in our county, it's about $100,000 a live
Yeah, I could see that.
year. They're way below. And a lot of our teachers and people that work in the schools have to drive about an hour just to get here. So what happens is we have this we can't recruit people, and our retention is very bad. And why? Teacher comes over here right out of school. It's a prestigious area. It's known to be very prestigious. They work about 1 to 3 years. They get the experience coming out of college. Get the title. I worked at Fairfax County Public School,
Yeah.
and then they're competitive in other counties, and they move. They move to a county. It's a lot cheaper that they can afford. They
Yeah.
can build a house.
Yeah. And they can walk to work or short commute,
Yeah, exactly.
get
And
get their
so
life back. Yeah.
you have a revolving door. And so you always wonder why we're losing good teachers is because they cannot afford to live here and the pay is there's a big off balance. Now they're proud. This school board is proud that they just passed a 2% increase. But when they pass a 2% increase, they pass a 2% increase across the board. So what does that mean? That means all these administrators that are making well into six figures get a 2% increase also.
That's a lot.
Now, I tell you this, I'm not a mathematician, but I know 2% increase off of 77,000 or 15,000 is a whole lot less than a 2% increase off of 250,000.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this is a fantastic thing they did. But why are we giving raises also to people making six figures when we have such an imbalance? I would be happy if they just took that 2% and said, this is going to go to the frontline teachers. This is going to go to the school workers, the
Yeah.
people that serve the food, the bus drivers. That's where the 2% is going. But we
Yeah.
have nothing. The common sense is out of there, you know. And it's a shame that, you know, this administration, you know, the school board administration, um, failed to realize that they're not giving enough towards teachers.
So wait a minute. Are you in the county that the FBI came in and arrested parents for coming into
That,
school board meetings and shining a spotlight on these books that are all about, you know, sexualizing our children?
that is the county right next door.
Okay. Well,
So Loudoun County was the forefront, but we have that issue that's happening over here. What's happening is whatever's happening in Loudoun County is a direct result because of Fairfax. Fairfax, I would say, is the epicenter of all this happening. We just haven't had time to really put it into the limelight. And the reason being is because everything's getting focused with the battles over there. Fairfax is a battleground state for this. I'm sorry, Loudoun is right now. It's considered that. Fairfax, everyone just kind of went with the flow of things. They really never pay attention. They just let things happen. Nobody really stood up. But now we're seeing a resurgence within the parents that they're beginning to stand up. And so
nice.
I think it was because of what happened in Loudoun gave confidence into the parents of Fairfax County and say, hey, let me dig into here, and enough's enough over here also. But it's a shame that we're seeing episodes of that where parents are getting targeted. I mean, right now, you should be able, if you go on my Twitter feed or my X feed, you'll see some of the horrendous things that people will say about me that support this type of bureaucracy, this type of corruption. I mean, it's they make up lies, they intimidate, they do things that are you can only imagine it from the news. It's something that the reality only hits you until after you see it. You're kind of disconnected. You hear about these things,
Yeah.
but you're never part of that. And then once you get part of it and you're targeted that way, you just can't believe that people are like that. And they run rapid.
So what's interesting to me is the different layers of corruption. And when you said money was coming out of the West Coast, just before you said that, I was thinking, your running for school board in your county would be like me running for school board in Los Angeles. Like
Yes.
the intensity of that, I just, like, God bless you for taking it on. And I know it has to be taken on because
Yeah.
if nobody stands up, nothing changes and they just get away with whatever they want. Nobody tracks it and it just gets buried.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like there's some kind of dynamic here between what you're dealing with and the money coming out of the East Coast, and then just like how this could literally jump if they get away with it consistently. And I want to get into this hot topic about the one free rule, the hall pass for, you know, I don't even know what I can say on YouTube anymore, but it's in the banner.
Yeah.
You know, if they pull it off here and the funding is coming from here, it could easily just be like, great, we can adopt all of this because it's just under the carpet and nobody's paying attention, basically.
Well, what it is it's a slow creep. How did our superintendents are making these outrageous salaries? It's because nobody's paying attention and it's a slow creep.
Yeah.
And so I guarantee that this rate has never been like this. It's a slow creep through the years where they're just building this bureaucracy. And
But isn't that the case of everything we're experiencing right now?
oh yeah, I mean,
You know,
we're seeing that across.
it's a slow boil, right?
Yeah, it's a slow boil, and so with the schools, we're finally seeing this coming out of COVID and experiencing that. Parents are seeing this all the way around. So, we're seeing it now. 2 years ago, we started seeing this stuff. How long has this been going on? Under our
Yes.
nose, because nobody pays attention to local elections. No one pays attention to your local offices. You just think that, okay, I'm paying taxes, everything's good. We may sit back and complain about our taxes, but we don't really dig in. We don't take the time to dig in because we're so caught up with the mainstream media really highlighting everything on a federal level, but we're not seeing what's happening at the local level. And the local levels affects you every day. And I think right now we're seeing that, and we're getting a lot of good people coming out and saying, "Hey, enough's enough. We got to take control of this." And, one person asked me, "Why school board? You have a lot of knowledge, especially in foreign affairs and world affairs." Uh, and I said, "Well, I may have a lot of experience in my time, with the Secret Service, CIA, and all my time overseas." With terrorism and different things. And yes, I do understand the economy, of everything with adversaries. But to me, this hits more at home
Oh,
because when I see
it's
our kids
it's
and everything, so,
grassroots.
so yes,
Yeah.
I may have the experience to talk about foreign policies and different things like that. But you know what? At the end of the day, if we lose this, we lose our country. All that doesn't matter. And
And this
that's
is
what I
where
have
we
to
can
focus
make
on.
change, right?
Yes, and it's going to take a while. I mean, we're seeing in our society right now. We're seeing these institutions, higher education institution, Harvard,
Hmm.
doing anti-Semitic stuff, rallies.
I know. Mind
We're
blowing.
seeing what we call the cream of the crop locations, and yet anything social, as far as any morals or values, are just pretty much thrown out. And so that is the reality of what we're running into. And if we continue to allow this to happen, we're going to run into a situation where we have no more countries. So why do I even care about what's happening internationally when everything domestically is falling apart?
Yeah, well, it's pretty simple. It's like 0 to 7 are the imprint years, 7 to 14 are the modeling years, and that
Hmm.
that space of time is when that child's mind is programmed
Yeah,
to worldviews, how they see themselves, self-worth, just like what they're willing to put up with and accept, and what they subscribe to. It's just like, and then 14 to 21 is socialization, so they go out into the world and they just be that thing they've been programmed to be since they came out of the womb,
yeah,
which
and
is go go go.
yeah, which is it's horrendous because it's being shaped, and we're taking in the schools are taking away parent rights with that too. They're slowly
Yes, they
start
are.
stripping all these things away from parents, where now the bureaucracy is dictating and training your kids on their worldview, their social worldview. And
Yeah,
it's not coming from family traditions, it's coming from a secular worldview. And that's a breakdown of
with an
our
agenda
society.
behind it, by the way.
The agenda, my personal feeling on that, the agenda is going to, more towards a socialist agenda. I mean, we're
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
tea leaves of it. The way you could be able to push it out is to break down families, to strip away your kid.
Yeah. And
And
the thing is like, life is so expensive. It takes, everybody's got to work.
yes,
And then there's no family bonding time. Like, it's all
hmm,
crumbling. Speaking of activism in our children,
hmm,
let's talk a little bit about, and then we want to drop the bomb on this hall pass. What's going on with Nickelodeon partnering up with Joe Biden and creating this whole launch of sing along civic series for kids? What's up with that?
well, it's another way to manipulate.
Hmm.
You take it down to soften everything into a cartoon type of sense to
Yeah.
push propaganda towards your kids. And people aren't paying attention. I mean, if you look at Disney, they've been doing it for quite a while. I mean, there's no reason to remake some movies and stuff just to add in, say, a transgender initiative. I have nothing against the transgender initiative that's going on, but I think America is all about, hey, you do you, we do us, but there's a problem when that starts seeping into family values and that is overtaking. And then
Yes.
they make you feel, because you rather not have that and be exposed to that you are transphobic, that you are the problem, versus just living your life. I mean, we're seeing this having to have acceptance of stuff. And I think that those are tactics. Once you have acceptance and you're just going to go along with the ride, we saw during COVID, put the mask on, everyone just did it and did it and did it. And then if you didn't, people will, I mean, they'll yell at you, put your
Yeah.
mask on, you know? People will have hatred towards you. They'll call you that you're out there just to kill everybody. They'll say the most nastiest things to you because they
Well,
learned.
it sounds like Hitler. I mean, we were where I was in downtown LA. We were constantly like billboards, bus boards, benches, social media, like everywhere. We were told and programmed to report each other.
Yes. I mean,
You
that
know,
falls within socialist countries, banana
oh,
republic,
beyond like
that goes in and
communists.
you're reporting. It's amazing how much, they did a test on us to see how far they could push us.
100%. It was
And
a
now you're
test.
seeing it with all the other things where if you do not agree with their agenda, they make you feel like you're the worst person. They ostracize you, they attack you, they say the worst thing. I'll tell you this. I have a lot of conservatives here when I go door knock with them, or to the houses. And I talk to a lot of conservatives and we ask them, would you put a yard sign up? Simple school board yard sign, right?
Yeah.
No big deal, right? It's not a Trump sign where people get very passionate about. It's a school board yard sign that's supposed to be a nonpartisan race. So they tell me, you know what, I'm voting for you, but I'm not going to put a yard sign. I said, well, why not?
They're scared.
And they said, because I don't want my lawn to get trashed.
Yeah, they're
That's how far
scared.
they go. They put the fear into people, and these are their neighbors that are going to do it to them. So you lose this being a neighbor, friendly neighbor is gone because of political parties.
There's no
And
more support system.
and when you start looking at, if you ever read George Washington's farewell address, he actually stated that the failure of this country, what's going to destroy this country, is not an outside influence, it's political parties. Because
Yeah.
loyalty will go towards the party over the country. And we're seeing it right
Yeah.
now. And that's why we have so much division. But one of the good things that we're seeing is there's a lot of people that are just tired of this division. And I'm resonating with a lot of moderate Democrats saying, listen, it's not about party, it's about people, it's about country, and it's about our
Yeah.
country.
So, man, like there's just so much
I know.
to get into here. Let's talk about Title IX. My team and I did some research on this, and so there is a name for it. It's Title IX, and basically, my understanding is that if in a school there's if they adopt Title IX, which I think they already are on a
Yes.
soft rollout, that if there's a sexual assault, it's like you get a slap on the hand and a hall pass. It's like,
Yes. Yes. That is actually, if you look at what happened in Loudoun County with the initial allegation of a rape, and then just move the child to another,
the
child
perpetrator.
perpetrator to another school, and he does it again.
Sure.
That example. So what's happening here is they're trying to pass what's called, and I hate saying this is the most disgusting thing, one free rape rule.
They
And
really
that's where
call it that, or I thought that was a slang term.
that is what it was
Oh,
pretty much called. Um, and so it was shot down. But the whole premise around this was exactly what you said. First allegation is kind of okay, we'll just take note of it. Second allegation, then we'll go ahead and push it off to authorities. And when did the school board or any of these administrators become police? I mean, that's a
yeah,
law enforcement thing. And yet
100%.
we live now, but we're living in this bizarre society where the schools are dictating what's appropriate and what's not appropriate.
They're
Instead of just
they're
saying
they're playing parent.
yes, instead of doing what I pushed out, which is every allegation needs to be pushed to law enforcement. Every allegation needs to be pushed to social services. Counselors could go ahead
Yeah,
and start
yeah,
talking with the female, and every allegation needs to be pushed to the parents, so everyone gets informed
yes.
what's going on. But they're not doing that. They're preventing that from happening. And so what happens is you have a situation where you're getting trauma on girls. You're getting girls that are trying to speak up, but they're not being heard. And then
God, that
when they
is so archaic.
yeah, and then when you finally do it, I mean, this school board is going through, they had to settle, almost $600,000 because they were putting this girl not believing. Uh, it's the most ridiculous thing, and people want to learn more about it. Please go to my website, Sabio for Fairfax. We have it. We're gonna have it posted up there. You go to my Twitter or my X. It's posted over there. I have different outlets that this is being pushed out in. But when you start looking at what they're doing, they're using lawyers to intimidate. So, for example,
Shame on
having
them.
having 11-hour disposition on and in part of it was, and this is open source, you can look and see these things because it's part of court case where the defense lawyer had to tell the school board or the Fairfax County lawyers, please stop laughing because they're laughing during this. Yeah, they're laughing.
They were basically gaslighting the girl.
Yes, and that's what it is. It's a lot of gaslighting. It's having them go through additional anal and vaginal exams. I never knew that we could do something like this. I've always thought that every allegation like this should be treated with kid gloves, that we should,
Yeah.
respect and everything and not tear down. And what I'm seeing is trying to do a cover up because they don't want people to know about this. Right now, there's active cases of this, and it really deals with a lot of sex trafficking where females are being taken out during school hours and brought back right before school comes out, is let out.
So where are they at during the day?
They're taking them out to local houses because there's a what I'm finding, there's a major sex trafficking issue here. If it's happening here, it's happening in all across the nation. Especially we have a lot of
Absolutely.
immigrants.
That's
So
sickening.
yeah, so and then they videotape, they use threats against their family, saying that they're going to hurt their family. I mean, these are actually out there. These are actual cases being litigated with Fairfax County Public School. And I did have a lot of people that saying that, oh, this is a bunch of lies or everything. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not lies
Well,
when you got court records on this.
I think
So
you told me that one businessman said to you they want to bury it because it would put a black mark on the business flow if they
well,
had.
yes, it was like, why keep attacking this? Because value of Fairfax County is going to drop down, and
Well,
that's what
gee,
you're
what if
looking
it's his daughter?
Exactly. I mean, me coming from this field in security and protection and law enforcement, one life means more than dollars. And we had a situation in the past where it's about Me Too. Whatever happened to that? We is it just Me Too when it's politically advantageous for you, when you're
Yes.
trying to use it against your political foes? Or is it
Yes.
truly, are we truly caring? Because we're seeing a shift of not caring and utilizing different types for political football to push your agenda or to tear down an opponent is purely disgusting. It's
It is.
disgusting in all sense.
I'm not smiling at you. I'm just curious. Do you have a new puppy?
Yeah, he scratched at the door. You mind if I let him
Ah,
in real fast? Hold on.
yeah, please do. Yeah, poor little guy.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. He's like,
He's,
I
listen,
respect him. He's relentless.
he
I
was
was out,
relentless there.
yeah, I was out for a walk the other morning and I could hear this. It sounded like the same sound, and so I decided to just cut through the alley and see what was going on. And
Yeah,
it was a little dog at the back door, just got like let me in, like what
yeah,
and he wasn't
yeah.
giving
He's
up.
relentless. He has the rule of the whole house and everything. But wherever I'm at, and if I close the door, he starts getting
It's like
pretty.
I want to be a part of this.
He does. He definitely does. But yeah,
So
go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
No,
I
so
mean,
going back.
I'm just blown away. It breaks like on so many levels. It breaks my heart. Like I feel it in my gut. Like it makes me want to cry.
It does. It does. And the biggest target of these are the kids that come from low income families,
Yeah.
minorities. And then you start talking, going back to what I said about what they say about equity. So where's the equity there? Yeah,
Well, there
are
isn't
we
any.
really protecting that? We know we have an issue on the border. We know we have people coming across. We know we have, MS-13 that's up in this area is very prevalent. And we have a lot of criminals coming across. So sad to say, it's known, and if people want to, put blinders on and not realize that, you're living in a different world than we are, and you're not in the world of reality. And so when you see these things, they're going to profit off of these type of things, which is sex trafficking, human trafficking, and it's
Yeah.
happening, and it's happening here, it's happening where you're at, it's happening across the nation.
I guess, yeah. So I've been remote working in Georgia, and apparently Georgia's the number one state. I had no idea. I think that any state that has a lot of transit, lots of trucks and ships, and we are just starting to wake up to the awareness and be, the information being shared that a lot of these tanker ships have containers full of people in them. Like they're basically slaves.
Yeah, yeah,
And, can you imagine like the vile filth of being in a container for 3 or 4 weeks with, I don't know, 100 people and
yeah,
no bathroom, no clean water? Like something's really wrong when we don't have respect for the human spirit. And that's the
yeah,
part that breaks my heart. And I feel like the more this stuff comes to the surface, the less it can be ignored. Like
yes,
your right, like your constituent that's like, we don't want to drive down the value of our neighborhood. Oh, so you just rather let these little girls and boys be sex trafficked all day long instead of being at school. That's okay with you. But, we want to be sure that we have this shiny veneer of a community that draws in more commerce. It's people like that are really going to have a massive shock when they have to face the music on that, because they are the enablers.
that's completely true. And people don't look at it like that. If you don't stand up for this, if you're just turning a blind eye, you enable it. If
Yeah,
and right
you're saying
now,
it's okay. It's okay. Take them. We don't care. We're
yeah,
busy.
and right now we have a whole school board that is more worried about their agenda. They use this. They use Fairfax County Public School, the actual school board, as a launching pad into state delegate and state senate, and then eventually into other positions. This is a launching pad for Democrats.
I had no idea. Of course, it makes
The
total
incumbent
sense.
I'm running against. Give a little bit background. He's from California.
So,
Okay,
so sorry.
he was. Well, I'm from California too, so
Me
and
too.
you're from
Yeah.
California, so there's good people. We have good and bad coming out of there. He was part of Media Matters. He was an activist. He was a lobbyist, and then decided to run for school board in 2019.
Where? In California or in?
Oh no, here. He moved
Okay,
out of
got you.
California. Lobbyist. He was on the Biden administration for some lobbyist group that worked with them. He worked with Media Matters. He's worked in that realm, and then decides to run for school board in 2019.
Mm.
He is only running for his activism. He does not represent the complete community. And he actually stated that when he announced that he's rerunning for election, he's running again for the school board seat. He actually said that he's running to keep pursuing his LGBTQ trans agenda. That's it. And
So he
so
just is using it as a like a platform basically to keep his
it's
agenda
completely
alive.
it's completely a platform to push his agenda, push what he believes in. Right? His biggest things, as he was talking about in a forum that we had, was at the end of his closing statement was he's proud about climate change. That climate change is real, and we need to tackle climate change. And so we're talking about schools. We're talking about school safety, and you're talking about climate change. And I'm not saying climate change is not up there. Wherever
Sure.
people sit on the aisle of it, that's fine, you know. But if we start prioritizing things, how does that climate change and your initiative for climate change have anything to do with securing our schools, protecting our kids, making sure they have a proper education, make sure
Well,
that,
and make sure they're safe when they're at
yeah,
school.
yeah. I mean, that's the responsibility of the school board to make sure that they're accountable to the parents and making sure that the policy and procedures of the school is followed.
Do your schools have school security and school police?
So we have what's called SROs at our high schools. So
Okay.
a resource officer at a high schools. In elementaries and high schools, we also have security officers. In some elementaries, we do. Not all of them do.
So where are they at with this all of this? Like they have to see these kids being taken out.
Well, that's the problem because nobody's reporting anything. So if a kid goes out and leaves school, there could be a school that does not have an armed security officer there,
Or
or
they're just not talking.
they're just not reporting it. And I have to go with the latter, that things are just not getting reported.
Jesus.
It's a
What a
complete
black
mess.
hole.
And
What a
people
black
tell me,
hole.
what are you going to do? And I said, first and foremost, complete audit. And then I'm going to get in there and I'm going to start looking at things, really dive in. I'm not privy right now to look at everything. I just get it from open
Yeah.
source,
Yeah.
but once you start getting into the mix of things, then you'll find out. Yeah, I mean, I started peeling this onion, it smells bad. I can't imagine when I get on that board and I start peeling even more how disgusting I'm going to be. But this is something
Right.
I promised everybody. I said, I will do a full audit and there will be a full report and transparency. There'll be a state of our schools, our school district, state of our school district. And then
Yeah,
from there,
absolutely.
we're gonna work on fixing it. You can't fix it unless you identify what you need to fix.
100%. You can't change anything you're not aware of.
Yeah, exactly. And I get a lot of supporters of the incumbent saying, "Well, what are you going to do? Try to explain." I can tell you what I know through open source and sitting and reading some of the stuff that are coming out, but I don't know exactly how deep all this goes. Does it tie in with the
I
county,
know.
with the board of
Well,
supervisors? Where's it tie in with the
cartel.
sheriff? You know, who know? I mean, how deep is this? I like to call it corruption, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I've never been, but I'm actually
We're not
seeing this
talking about a
happening.
conspiracy when it's really going on.
Yep, exactly. And this is
So
reality. People just need to know.
and what's fascinating to me about all of this is that you have a whole other set of eyes. Like you have a whole other perception of reality with your background.
Yes.
You know, you can see things from an angle or a distance and pick up on the subtleties and the nuances that most people wouldn't even notice go by them.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
it's transparent to you. It's like, oh my, I can see it coming at me, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's a lot there. And, you know, right now in Fairfax County, we're about the minority between Asian and Hispanic are 42%. It's a growing number. And so it looks like the tide is going to start shifting over because very traditional. They care about their family. They care about their kids. They want their kids safe. And so we're seeing a lot of that coming across. My team is out there listening. We're talking with people. You know, it's very basic things they want. They want the kids to have a great education, and
yeah,
they want their kids safe. And they also, the third thing is, they want to know what's going on with their kids.
yeah.
And
You know what
that's
this
something that,
reminds me of? This reminds me of I do you remember this back, this is like years ago, it might have been a decade ago. The chef Jamie Oliver did an expose on the food supply in the cafeterias across the LA County school system.
hmm
And the stuff he exposed that they were feeding the kids was just
yeah,
vile. That's what this reminds me of, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Only it's
I
not just
mean,
food, it's all of it.
it's all of it. It's all of it. And like I said, once I get on that school board, I'll be able to peel away at this onion even more and see. And that's
Yeah.
when the repair starts. We have to fix this.
How long is
Um,
the term for?
it's 4 years.
4 years. And when's the vote day?
November 7th. Early voting's already started.
Yeah,
We're seeing good numbers coming in as far as Republicans coming out to vote. So we're feeling very confident in that. Talking with a lot of people, we feel very confident. We resonate. Our message resonates with a lot of moderate Democrats
sure.
because these issues, when we start talking about school safety, we start talking about this imbalance of teacher pay. When
Yeah,
we start talking about minorities not gaining the resources, and that not just minorities, it's also special education kids. I have one parent has to drive 30 minutes just to get services for her special needs child. 30 minutes one way. So
what what's the population?
as far as demographics or the
Well,
total
just
amount,
a total, yeah, population in your county, do you
wow,
know?
just in my district is 188,000 residents, and we
Okay.
have 9 districts. So pretty much take that times it by 9. There you go. So
Yeah,
eh, we're talking million, well over
at
a million
least. At
people just
least.
in this district or in this county. But
Yeah,
having lack of resources, but then the lack of resources, having enough special education teacher falls within teacher pay, which falls within they have to drive an hour, and then they get better housing, cheaper housing, moving to a different district after getting tagged with Fairfax County on the resume. They're moving out. It's a revolving door, and
yeah,
I don't fault them. Some of the initiatives I want to do is I want to do a 5% increase in pay for teachers and school staff and faculty, not administrators. I want to reduce
sure.
down administrators. Cost is something that's reasonable. I want to reduce down the amount of jobs that we have in our administration building. I want to make sure that we do work with board of supervisors where I do more housing incentives because a safe community is a community that has their teachers living there, it has their firefighters living there, has their police officers living there, has their
Yeah,
medical personnel living there. And that's what I want to do, have incentives for these personnel that work on the ground every day, whether you're teachers, law enforcement, firefighters, living in this county. And right now we don't. So that takes me working, with the board of supervisors and saying, okay, listen, we need to come out with housing incentives because it reduces down crime and it builds bonds. Right now we have a community that's so divided,
I
and
was going to say it would bring the community back together.
that's what we need. We need to end this division. We need to focus on what binds us versus what divides us, and we need to get back to common sense. And I think what I've proposed to a lot of people is very much common sense. I'm not talking about some outlandish stuff. The biggest outlandish thing I said was I'm going to reduce the staff at the administrative building by 30%.
Ouch.
Yeah, well, I already
Put the
found
fear
two
of
jobs.
Jesus in everybody.
Yeah, so, but you know what? That 30% are the ones making well into the six figures. And so what I'm going to
Yeah,
do with that excess money? I'm going to give it to teachers. That's where it's
100%.
going to go, because I'm pro teachers. I'm not pro bureaucracy. I'm pro teachers. I'm pro the school staff.
Well, now,
The
it shines a light on the stories I've heard about teachers that, because the school doesn't have, say, I don't know, like uh, supplies for their kids, art supplies, for example. So the teacher
Yeah,
goes out and buys them for the classroom, and they're living on 70 grand a year. It's just like, and then you've got administrators making almost 400 grand a year, but there's not a budget for school supplies. Like, clearly
yeah.
there's a problem here.
No, there is a problem. It's a mismanagement of money, and so
Yeah.
when the solution is not adding more money into the mix, the solution is just like any business. You need to look at your profit and loss. Your losses, everything going out, your salaries, everything, all your programs you're supporting. Look at the profit loss based upon return on investment. Return on investment is your graduation rates, your acceptance in colleges,
Mhm.
your trade and vocational certifications that kids are getting coming out, so they can have a job when they come out. That's your return on investment. And when you
Yeah.
do the balance off of that, and that's your single focus, then you can figure out where we need to put money, where we need to scratch money, what programs we need to shift away or reduce down, and what positions do we need to do cuts in. I mean, any company does that all the time.
All the
Uh,
time. You
so
have to
so
stay in business.
so to say that this is a foreign thing, I mean, that's not how you do things in the school system. Well, maybe you need to have that in the school system, because
Mhm.
I look at it like this, and I tell a lot of people this. I get on a school board. I'm part of a board for, say, a major company. I mean, $3.6 billion budget that Fairfax County Public School has. The shareholders are the taxpayers. I'm
Yep.
responsible for them. Our product is the kids and the education to come out if they're successful. Coming out of 12th grade, how successful are they transitioning into the real world? So that is our product. And so you have to do evaluation. Are we meeting the standards? And if we're not meeting the standards, what's are we adding into the curriculum that's deviating from meeting these standards? And I can tell you
Yes.
right now, there's a lot. There's a lot of other things that are deviating away from the
Give me
core
an
mission.
example.
Well, we start having more of the social emotional learning that's happening.
Mm.
So now we're taking things into another level where, we're more looking into the emotional aspect of education versus just educating. So
Well, and that's a
yeah,
slippery slope because that can be manipulated to brainwash them into
becoming
being,
activists.
activists, being compliant sex slaves, like all sort of nasty stuff.
It is. It's very subjective. Anytime you start having subjective type of curriculum in there, or a subjective type of leaning on there, then it's based upon who's teaching. And so
Yeah.
now you're putting your efforts into this and worry more about the social emotional learning aspect versus learning your ABCs and one, two, threes.
Yeah.
You know, anything in social emotional learning should come from parents. That builds
That's a
a world
value
unity.
system. That's a value system that comes from the home.
Yes. And that needs to be refocused. So if we're taking time to teach this kind of stuff, it takes up time into the schools to go over some of these things. That needs to be shifted away. That needs to be pushed back to the parents and let the parents. Some of the excuses I get is, oh, parents don't want to do that. Parents, you know, uh, they neglect their kids that way. So that now we have to do that. Now, that is the excuse to start shifting more into developing people as you want people to be developed, as opposed to letting people develop on their own through their family network, through their community network. You are social engineering people,
Yeah,
children, into a certain way.
100%. Yes. And it's easy to do because you have what, 6 hours a day with a room full of kids. You can program, whatever's in the class. Let's say there's 30 kids or 20 kids in the class. You can program them all day long.
Mhm.
And you can, with repetition, pretty soon they're drinking the Kool-Aid, and then they're taking that home to the family and pushing back on the family values. And now you've got a family that's struggling to stay together, and
Yep.
right, like it's a complete demise. The other
It
thing I
right.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is, love for our country. That's not taught in the schools. I
No,
remember growing up, and we always said a prayer, and we sang the national anthem. That was the first thing we did in the morning, and it set
mhm.
the tone for the day.
Yeah, you're seeing everything being shifted away from
It's
that,
gone.
where it's more individualism that's being pushed out. I had one person say that children aren't property. When I said, parents need to be involved, that's their kids, and someone said, well, children aren't property. And I was like, that. Well, that's a very secular way of looking at things,
Well, they're not
because
your property either.
yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're not your
So where are
property
you
for
coming
you to
from?
dictate.
Like,
But that's their viewpoint on a lot of these things, because they want to refocus and push certain agendas through to have a certain outcome that they want. They're trying to strip away family values. They're trying to strip away parent rights. And I support parent rights regardless of what your political leaning is. I support your parent rights. Unless you're doing something illegal to your kids, which should be
yeah,
pushed forward to law enforcement and social services. It should be reported.
yeah,
How you raise your kids, how you raise your kid, and that's what is so great about our country, because our country allows us to have those liberties. And now, when that liberty is taken, and now the school, which is nothing more than a government arm, it's a government entity,
yes.
is now dictating exactly how they're going to bring up your kids, how they're going to influence your kids a certain direction in the name of social emotional learning. That's completely wrong. Leave that to the churches. Leave that to the parents. I mean, right here
Well,
we have a huge amount of traditional families, and they're just it's an assault on their First Amendment.
it is. And yeah, yes. And, you're right. It is a government arm. And they know exactly what they're doing, just based on what I said earlier about 0 to 7 are the imprint years when the psychology
Hmm.
of the child is formed. And then 7 to 14 are the modeling years where the child will model what they've been taught. Those are the two most critical age ranges, and that's why they want this control over the children, and they want to take it away from the parents, because that's the most fruitful time to program a child's mind.
Yep,
And
and
then
that
when they're 14 to 21, and you've got that socialization period, you can just push the trigger and send them to go be an activist or whatever anywhere, and the kids won't question because they're programmed. It's a program. It's a
yes,
brainwashing.
it is definitely brainwashing. I mean, we're seeing that right now with all these protesting happening against Israel, and all this
Yeah,
anti-Semitism is happening. And it really blows my
yeah.
mind to not recognize evil where evil is, because it doesn't fit your narrative. Because
Well, and
Hamas,
that's the thing. That's the
yeah,
thing, Anthony, is once you get into the programming, once you accept the programming, then you're, like I was saying earlier about, you have a different set of eyes than your average school board member because of your background.
Hmm.
And so you can see things and sense things and intuit things that most people would never even know ever even happened.
Yes.
And that's the whole point here, is that once you accept a program, whatever the program is, you cannot see that you're in a program,
Yeah.
because you don't know you don't know.
Because that's your reality. Your reality is based
Yes.
on what was pushed to you. And you know what? I tell a lot of people this because I do have that insight on seeing these things. And terrorism are just like gangs. They influence
Yeah.
young kids that are impoverished, young kids that are starving, young kids that are dying for a connection with anything. And they social engineer them to do the most horrendous things. Like
Yeah.
they social engineer kids to put a bomb on themselves and blow themselves up. That is, what I see overseas. And I don't fault, the kids. I mean, yeah, they did a horrendous thing, but no kid was born saying that I want to go kill people. It was
No.
pushed into their head.
God, no.
And you're using these innocent children as puppets for what you want, your agenda. And it's the most
Mhm.
disgusting thing. Like right now, I know we're shifting a little bit, but Hamas leadership now lives in Dubai in five-star hotels. They're not living in Gaza, but yet they're pulling the strings of what is happening in Gaza through Hamas. And the people that are losing out on there are the families, the young kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so when we start seeing evil out in the world, we gotta call evil out. And what we're seeing is this complete brainwashing, of our kids. It's showing with all these protesting anti-Semitism, pretty much calling for the annihilation of the Israeli state of all Jews. I can't. I never thought in my years that I'd be sitting here listening to this type of hate. But this hate,
Especially since we're in such a sophisticated society with all
yeah,
our technology and everything we can do at a push of a button, and just, it's wow,
yeah, and
wow, I'm just mind blown.
this hate that you're seeing also goes towards people like myself. They're running for a simple school board position, and I get so much hate and vitriol towards me. I mean, the worst you could ever hear. It's because I don't fit within their agenda.
And again, they don't know they don't know.
Yeah,
They're just brainwashed. So they just, it's when you're dealing with people that are at that level of consciousness, there's nothing you could say
yes,
that would have them see a different perspective. So what you have to do is you have to focus on the people that are more conscious.
yeah,
Whether they're fully conscious or not doesn't matter. If there's like any sort of a beam of hope, of light, that you
yeah,
can insert in
yeah.
a greater level of awareness, you got to do it. And I think, because we got to go, it's like we've been on here,
I know we could continue this on
I
for a
know,
long
a
time
half
because
hour
there's
longer,
a lot
but
of
you
stuff.
you you got to do it, and you got to do it at this grassroots level, because you just get lost in these bigger governmental bodies where there's more and more layers of bureaucracy to get a decision. It's like if you work in a smaller company, they can hear you. You work in a really large corporation, and you just like you're just buried.
Yeah,
So you have to decide, where do I want to be? Do I want to be in the organization that is smaller, where I can make my voice heard, and I can follow through with shifting agendas? Or do you want to be in a bigger pond and just be swept off with all the back alley shenanigans.
No, it's hard. But you know what? I tell a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of Democrats. Every chance I get, I talk to a Democrat, and I tell a lot of people that are conservatives, you need to engage. You need to talk with them. It's going to be hard. You got to break through. Be polite. Be kind. Have conversations. And a lot of times, when I start listening to them, listening to what they're saying, that's a point where I can actually build some rapport with them. And it's not my job to change them right there and then. It's my job just to have their minds start opening back up.
Well, to have them even talk to you.
What's that?
To have them even talk to you.
Oh yeah, trust me, it's because I come with them with nothing but grace and love towards them, and I'm wanting to listen, and I try to create that connection of friendliness. And I know there's a lot of conservatives out there that just discount. Oh, I'm not gonna. It's a waste of your time, but it's not.
It's never a waste of your time.
Yes, it's not, because our country's worth it. If we want to repair our country, we have to do this. It's going to be hard. It's a long road. They've already implanted a lot of this stuff in there. And if you come at somebody and tell them you're wrong, they're going to dig deeper into their, their beliefs. But if you just listen to them and just become friends with them, and then through time, just talk, collaborate, so they're hearing your ideas, that's what it takes. It's a long road, and it's not an easy road, but it's a road each of us have to do. It's our responsibility.
100%. So, look, I know that the election is on November 7th. People are voting early. This audience is international for my show, but how can we support you if we're not actually in your county and can come vote for you? What do you need, Anthony?
I will say this, my opponent has still $400,000 in donations. I can still use donations to get the word out.
Okay.
There's a couple of social media initiatives and commercials I want to push out to really get the word on all these things. If you could donate, go to my website, donate. You could donate there. Any amount will help out, even $5. Everything counts. We are.
Tell me your URL, and I'm going to put this in the notes for everybody to see. Donate at
Sabio, Sabio, the number 4, Fairfax, 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 all
Brilliant.
one word.
Yeah.
And we are going to start a pack, because this is going to continue. So after this, we're going to start doing some initiatives to keep getting the word out. So, but everything's going to be linked to the website. And so we're taking donations, and we're going to take donations to continue this fight. My whole job is to push the word out to help other candidates. Not just when I win this election, help other candidates that are running in 2025 and support them.
And just keep building.
It takes a team. And like I said, when we first talked about the mental health of kids in the state, I mentioned about getting involved in local elections. Never thought in a million years this is where I'll be at, but here I am.
I know, right?
And we all have to do our duty. It's hard living in a fishbowl. It takes a toll at times when they write things about you that are completely nonsense, and it goes against your integrity and character, who you are, without knowing you. They just write these things. But each and every day that I go look at the community people that are supporting me, and just the thank you in their eyes means everything to me. And so I'll continue this fight. It's going to continue well past. I tell a lot of people November 8th is actually when the work starts, and when we're going to continuously push our message to build bonds between our community and end this division.
Good. Well, all the best. God bless you.
So much.
This is really huge. Yeah. And you got some love from Max Fisher looks like he's in Virginia. So
I know Max Fisher. He's actually running for state delegate. I work with
that's
him.
What it is. Yeah. So thanks, Max. And Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate you and all the effort and everything that you're doing. This is a game changer for the entire country. We get this off the ground and then you just keep rolling it out. Other school boards, I mean, why not?
And you know what? If we are able to make a change in Fairfax, which is one of the hardest places, outside of California is probably the hardest to
Sure.
make a change. But outside of California, if we're able to make a change here, being so close to the nation's capital, I mean, it's 10 minutes away from me. If we can make a change here, that means there's hope. And so
Mhm.
if you're out there, if you live in their city, in their state, we need donations. We could take as many donations from outside the region, outside the states. Please donate. Look it up. You go to Fairfax County Republican Committee, look at all the different candidates there and donate directly to the candidates, not just me. But I can tell you this, that all donations that come to me, also I spread it out to all the other candidates like Max Fisher that's running for state delegate. So
That's
this
cool.
is a mission for us, and we're going to make a change here.
Yeah, it's already happening.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I know things are going to go well for you, and I appreciate you being here today.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah.
Yeah, my pleasure. So listen up, everybody. You just heard a serious message that, has so many elements to it, so many dark sides, and then yet sunshine at the end. So please support Anthony and what he's doing, because this will shift across the entire nation once we get some momentum going. And I want to thank you for being here today, sharing, liking, subscribing, commenting. I'm sorry I couldn't get to all the comments. I was just really engrossed in the conversation. So,
Yeah.
and this is probably one of the most perfect times to say my typical stay aligned, stay alert, and stay awake.